not turned off by that grumpy old thumbnail photo I used. We'll see. Probably won't get nearly as many views today because of that. What the heck is that? Oh, yes. Well, guys, I think I'm actually going to have the microphone working today. And I'm all dressed up in my cowboy gear, old-fashioned, Old West cowboy gear. And life's just a whole lot of fun over here on the wild side. And for those of you who watch regularly, you know I've been having trouble with the microphone. But I think I got it figured out. So if anyone's watching, let me know if you can hear me. I always start out this way. If you can hear me, and if it gets better. Okay, that should be better. This should be fantastic audio because it's a nice pair of microphones that I bought. Blackjack Creek says it's a nice thumbnail. Thank you. Oh gosh. All right. Well, we're starting off on a dark note. That really sucks, Stephen. Gosh, last night. I'm really sorry. That's a horrible loss. I'm sorry, Stephen. Huh. Darn. Hey, Craig. Good morning. God bless Texas. All right, guys. I haven't had my second cup of coffee yet, so we're gonna kick off some coffee making. And Craig, did anybody say? Craig, can you let me know if the audio is good? Somebody let me know. All right. Well, things are good. It's a weird, gosh darn it. Thank you, Justin. Volume is very quiet. Why in the world? Oh, is that any better? Is that any better? I'm going to try this a few more times. Is the volume any better now? Okay, that shouldn't have made a difference anyway. Okay, well, we'll go back to the iPhone, I guess. Man, I don't know what in the world is going on. Let's see. The transmitter transmitting. The microphone microphoning. Still quiet? Oh, good grief. All right. This may be the last time I use my iPhone. I'm going to go. Okay, how's that? Is that gonna work? Anyone? Gosh, I wonder if my Rode mics are not working anymore. Yes, that works. Huh. Well, maybe that microphone is no good. Much better. Much better, Stanley, or good? It's supposed to be spectacular. Oh, gosh. Good old Apple products. I absolutely hate all of these companies these days. All right, I got to make some coffee so I can deal with this. I mean, it's not like I'm buying cheap stuff. All right, thanks, guys. All right, well, now, okay. I got to get back into the get my head back in the game. Like I said, the coffee will help. Whew. I'm just keeping a perpetual fire going these days, guys. Usually it's a hassle having to stock up on fire starter. But like I said last week, to keep my solar batteries from getting cold, I just keep a fire going all night. And it's nice. I can keep a stove right on not a stove, a stew on the stove, and just keep adding to it so I perpetually got food. Speaking of, that's one of the bigger struggles. So I always talk about how good this life is. Like, it's not difficult. People think I'm roughing it out here, and I'm not. But one of the most difficult things, and this is of my own doing, doesn't really have anything to do with my lifestyle, or this lifestyle, is that I don't buy a bunch of snack food because it's unhealthy, and that's mainly it. It's unhealthy. But the convenience is, if you get hungry, you just grab something and eat it. Me, if I get hungry, I got to grab stuff and cook for an hour, at least, depending on what cut of meat I'm using. So that's why having stuff that cooks fast or is always on the stove cooking, and I can just dip in and have some stew, why, that makes me happy. That makes me real happy, Clark. Whoa. All right. The store stopped selling my favorite coffee, so I'm still on this quest to find the right replacement. And this stuff that I've got is okay. Still figuring it out, because if I brewed it too quick the first time and it didn't have a whole lot of good flavor. I brewed it longer because it's a coarser grind. Yes, I buy pre-ground coffee. If it weren't for the solar and also I don't know if it's just me, guys, but everything that I use breaks. Like, it just doesn't work. It's not like it's broken, it just kind of doesn't work. I bought a $500 grinder. I barely used it, and it's already, I mean, I bought it like 7 years ago or 8 years ago. And it's a nice grinder, but now it won't grind. And it takes up a whole lot of solar power. So, I just buy pre-ground. And also that means I can have my coffee that much faster. With keeping a wood stove going overnight, I keep warm water, so it's not boiling, but it's pretty good and warm or hot. And then in the morning, I just put it in the fire box, and it's boiling within a couple minutes. So I got my coffee within about 5 minutes of waking up. That's how I like it. Somebody asked if it's cowboy coffee, and as you can see by now, no. I don't drink cowboy coffee unless I'm camping. Something about camping makes food and coffee taste better. When I'm camping, I like my black coffee. Make black cowboy coffee, and it's fantastic. But because I don't have snack foods, the one delight that I have is my coffee. I mean, my food is better, but it's not like I'm enjoying cookies and donuts or anything, or ice cream. So what I do treat myself to is coffee the way that I absolutely like it, and that is heavy whipping cream. And trust me, if I could enjoy black coffee as much as this, I'd be happy, because keeping heavy whipping cream in is a hassle. If I run out of this stuff, that means I automatically have to go to town. Like if I run out of rice, well, I can get by for a few days. But if I run out of heavy whipping cream, I don't like going to town. That part I figured was understood. So now I buy 3 or 4 bottles of this, and because it's winter time, I can do that. I can keep it right outside here, and hang on to them. I don't have to worry about it going bad. Okay, this is only my second cup of coffee. Normally, if I have coffee during the live stream, it's my third or fourth cup. Well, third cup. Whew, okay. Well, I'm wearing my cowboy gear, my historical clothing. Guys, it's so tempting to wear this stuff on a regular basis. Like get rid of all my other clothes and just do historical clothing. It's tempting. Very tempting. All right, let's go to some questions here. Comments. What kind of coffee? This one, it's just a cheap coffee, but it's organic. Oh, I threw the bag away. It's organic. Grocery outlet. For those of you who live in a place where there's grocery outlets, it's their store brand. Let's see. How do I keep my meat fresh? Well, the cold air does it this time of year. Over at my other property, I've got power, so I've got a freezer outside, just sitting out in the field, plugged in, and so I went with a freezer. Those of you who have been following my channel for years, you know that I've done a lot of meat drying. The problem with meat drying, besides being laborious, is it's hard to digest. It's hard on our stomachs to eat dried food all the time, because the stuff never really rehydrates, not the way that I've done it. I did learn that you pound it first. I've done videos on it, and then you cook it, or even soak it first, but it never really gets to the texture of normal meat. So it's hard on the system, and so that's why I don't want to. That's why I decided not to do dried meat on a regular basis, and I went ahead and went with a freezer. Kind of sucks. I have a little refrigerator, and I have used that over at the other property during the summer for my creamer, but I didn't really use it this last summer. So yeah, that's how I keep my meat fresh. However, if I were to get a carcass now, like if I run across a roadkill and brought it home, I would just hang it up, just hang it in the shade, and I'd keep the water off of it. I've made that mistake before too many times. As long as I keep it dry, it keeps in this weather really well. However, I recently found out about bone sour. A local guy gave me a bunch of elk meat that he said started going bone sour. So I've got that for my dogs. And I don't know if that ever happened to the animals, because I've eaten meat off of carcasses just laying out on the ground. As long as it's not summertime and there's no maggots, it does pretty well. Once I had a carcass of a horse and I threw a tarp over it, and that's how I kept it dry, and I left it on the ground. Justin, yeah, these hats are real fine for the hobby, folks. This is an Amish hat. It's not even really a historical reproduction. However, I'll tell you what I dislike about this hat, Justin, is from the profile, the front and the back dip. And that just annoys the heck out of me. But from the front, it looks pretty good. But also, it's about 1/8 of an inch too small for me. I think I need to just try again. These hats are cheap enough. I could probably sell it and replace it. But even if it's all I had, it's a good hat. And I'm glad I have it. Oh, cool. Stanley, that's awesome. I think I know of 2 guys who wear historical clothing on a regular basis. The problem that I'm running into with making the switch is like this is a $150 shirt, and I really like this shirt, but like the other day I was moving a bunch of tires. I put a temporary roof up on. I have a 40-foot container here that's got a bunch of leaks in the roof, so practically useless because it rains and it gets wet. So I threw a temporary roof on it to dry it out. And in doing that, I'm thinking to myself, man, if I was wearing this shirt, it'd ruin it pretty much. It'd get it all disgusting, and some of it would wash out, but it wouldn't be long before the shirt was. That's a $150 shirt, so I'd definitely have to have 2 sets of clothing, and so that's one of the issues. The other issue is funny. So I'm skinny, so I got to go use a tree constantly throughout the day. And wearing these, I'm wearing old-fashioned long underwear and my old-fashioned trousers. I counted it up. That's 8 buttons. So I got to unbutton and then rebutton, which doesn't sound like a big deal. Sure, getting dressed and getting undressed for bed, no big deal. But when you got to go use a tree every hour, it gets old. So that's the 2 main reasons. Also, the Victorian era was very, very formal, and I have really learned to enjoy wearing sweatpants. I love a drawstring. I just use a drawstring, sweats, and they're lightweight. Like I don't like wearing jeans if I don't have to because they're so heavy. And I love lightweight clothing. So anyway, that's why I'm having a hard time making the switch. If the money wasn't such an issue, then it would be easier, obviously. Specs boy, what's the best roadkill? What type of animal? Well, I mean, my favorite's a deer. Most people prefer elk, and of course I like elk, but I prefer deer. That's my favorite, and it's a good size too, where you get enough meat, but you're not butchering it. Like that's why if I got a cow or a horse, I pretty much. Well, I guess I did get to where I was just butchering it, but there was a few times I'd just leave the whole carcass on the ground and just go cut off of the carcass on the ground. When it's cold out, you can get away with a lot more than when it's warm out. Yeah, well, the thing is, I'm not pushing it down on my head too much. Like, yeah, I mean, I guess it probably is dipping more because it's on my head. Justin was saying that's why it dips. It's too tight. Stretch it with a hat jack, then iron the flat again. I could do it for you in 10 minutes. But when you stretch it with a hat jack, doesn't that make the brim do that even more? You said iron it flat. Hey, maybe not. Maybe the fibers actually just reconfigure a little bit. I could do that. I'll have to try it. What's frustrating, I have soaked this hat and then worn it around, thinking that it would fit better. I like models too. What's up? Hey, welcome. Oh, Hane, I think is how you pronounce your name. How do I keep my ears warm? Well, by wearing gloves and boots and a scarf. Whoops. And a scarf. I never really get cold ears, and a hat. I dress warm enough that the body heat has to escape somewhere, or I would overheat. And so I guess it leaves my face. I'm rarely cold. Right now I'm a little bit chilly because I got the light open. There, just open up the fire. Maybe it'll get warmer. But I could also put on a vest. I like Mama's too. I'm wearing a Wrangler Western Snap shirt from '92. Nice. 3 times older than you. What, you're 10? Yep, so I'm dressing up more now because I'm doing my filming practice. So I'm dressing up for it. If you guys follow me on Instagram or Facebook, you see the photos. And I'm really excited because for those of you who remember, my horse is lame. But yesterday or the day before or whatever, I lifted her leg again, the hurt leg, and she didn't show any signs of pain. And so I'm really hoping that it was just a temporary injury that she had. My coffee got cold. And so I'm really, really hoping that that was temporary and it's not something 13, I just read your message. It's not something serious long term, because I've been reading about leg issues, and man, there are many issues that horses can have. Some of them hereditary, some of them injury, and a lot of times they don't recover. And so that horse is just such a good horse. She's exactly what I want for a riding horse. I've been shopping for horses now for a couple months, and it's just so hard to get a horse that you know is what you want, and she is what I want. So I would really be happy to find out that that temporary issue. I might, I don't know. I got an appointment for her this Wednesday. I got to haul her an hour and a half away because we're low on vets around here. But I want to get her checked out, maybe get a couple x-rays and find out for sure what is wrong with her leg or what isn't wrong. Hopefully isn't wrong. And then I can know for sure. I wouldn't want to go out and, because I don't know why I'm getting so much smoke out of that thing. But anyway, I don't want to go out and ride her and re-aggravate the issue, because I've done 2 things for her. I took her off of the 40 acres that she was on running free, where that moving around could help her leg or it could make it worse. And so I've got her pinned up where she doesn't run around like she used to. But I also put her on a low sugar diet, because a high sugar diet can hurt horses, particularly Mustangs. A lot of them are used to low sugar, and then you get them and you give them grain and alfalfa and, high amount of sugar on the pasture that she was on, because she was eating a lot of short grass. So I put her on a low sugar diet and pinned her up. So that's 2 variables. So don't know which one to attribute her getting better to, or if it was just time. Maybe she just needed time. So I don't know. Anyway, that's the latest on my horse. Man, if she's rideable, I'm going to be so happy. Because with this mild winter that we're having, I could be riding her every day. Right through winter. So, fingers crossed. Okay, I like models. Yeah, I did my math wrong too. You said 92, I didn't bother. Did the math wrong. I was at my friend's house yesterday and didn't sleep because we were digging a trench system for his dad. Oh, cool. I've done a lot of digging in my life that I was paid for. It's actually good exercise, a good work. I can't dig that way anymore, though. Well, I haven't given myself the opportunity to try, but I went out to start digging that cellar, and I realized one, either I ignored it a whole lot when I was younger, or two, I'm not as good as I once was. Now, Hani, for those of you who don't remember, you're up in Finland, if I remember right. It was negative 25 Celsius, negative 13 Fahrenheit. Oh, thank you. Negative 13 Fahrenheit. Wow. Outside during the day, and it dropped to, and it dipped to, don't you mean it went up to 14? From negative 13 up to 14? Wow. Now that's cold. I consider that cold. If it gets down to the teens here, especially in the daytime, then that's when I consider us having cold weather. I mean, it's also a step toward it when it just stays in the high 20s or low 30s around here, where it actually freezes during the day and then gets a good solid freeze at night. That's also one step colder, unlike what it is now of barely freezing at night and then getting in the high 30s in the day. And we got 10 days projected of highs in the 40s, pretty much 10 days. So we're going to get like 2/3 of the way through January, according to the forecast, of spring weather, and we'll be almost done with January. Now, what sucks about that, even though it's warm temperatures, it always means it's cloudy because it's warm because of the clouds, and that's what really gets me down. I would rather we had highs in the 20s and sunny than highs in the low 40s and cloudy. That's just the worst for me. So that means I got to plan my trip to Arizona and maybe spend a couple extra weeks. I like model says I like digging. I didn't get paid. It's a good workout, and frankly, I need the workout. Yeah, it's a fantastic way to expend energy, and you can get a lot done. There's a lot of cool things to do by digging, particularly underground housing, which is what basically I want to build a cellar. How's the hot shower coming along? Well, I'm going to order the parts soon. I'm still kind of undecided. I got a little hill over here that I could put my 300-gallon tank on, and I could run the water from my well to the tank and then run a hose back down to my shower. I don't know that that would give me the 10 gallons per minute pressure that I need. Not with running a hose. Maybe if I bought pipe, but I don't want to buy pipe. You know, like if I had 3-inch pipe to run it through, then it might maintain the pressure that I need. Actually, it probably would. But what I'm thinking about doing to make it just way more reliable, well, make the pressure reliable, but then you got to buy more junk that falls apart, is buy a pump. I found a pump that was like 2.5 gallons per minute and something like $40. So my plan at this point, I like luxurious showers. I want to get 2 of them water heaters, 300-gallon tank, and a pump. The propane heaters is what I'm talking about. That way I can run a body shower that just runs non-stop, keep your body warm, and then a handheld for showering. And it's going to be outdoors with a view, so I can enjoy the view while taking a luxurious hot shower. And 300 gallons, so I could stay there for 30 minutes and not even run out of water. I guess I will run out of propane at some point, but they're pretty efficient. The propane lasts a long time. So that's my plan. The flooring is the hard part because it's all uneven out there. So I think I'm going to use some blocks and run a frame and build a floor that's elevated, which makes sense anyway because then the water can just run right out of the floor. Just floor it with 2x4s with 1/4-inch gaps or something. That's my plan right now. I should get it going. What I really want to do right away though is get a metal water trough and run hot water into that so I can sit in the hot tub. But I can't find a metal water trough for sale, and I'm not going to go buy a new one. This town's horrible for buying stuff. I can see them for sale in every other town if I look on Marketplace, but in my town there's not even one. I think there's one in Ellensburg somewhere near, but that woman won't reply to my messages. It's been for sale for months, and she doesn't look at her messages. Oh yeah, to avoid frostbite, I have used my scarf under my hat. Only issue is my neck gets really cold. Yeah. Well, you need. Oh, well, I forgot about this. This is my llama wool hat, and it covers my ears, I think. Yeah, it covers my ears. I wear this one at night when I got to use my headlamp, or if it's cold in the cabin, when I sleep without a fire and it'll let it get cold, then I'll wear that for sleeping. But yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, well, it sounds like you need 2 scarves, or just plain earmuffs. I got great hats. Yes, I have too many good hats. Can only wear one. So I'm trying to narrow it down to these 2. And actually, I'm probably going to get a really cool hat in a few months. One that I'm going to actually spend a bunch of money on. A guy in Sweden is making it for me. And it's going to be my 70s cowboy impression hat, because it's going to have a big wide brim and a fairly low crown. I'm pretty excited about that one. And then this one will be my 60s hat, or like I said, if I sell this and replace it. But then I'm also going to keep my narrow brim black hat. It's a really nice felt, and I want to keep that one for 60s also, which actually that one will work for 70s too, but it's narrow brim, so it wouldn't be so cowboyish. And then that's going to be my modern hat, the one that I wear. My cap when I want to wear the cap, and my modern hat. I tell you what, that's a pretty wide brim hat. It gets annoying to wear. I always forget about the brim and bumping into stuff. You'd think I would be used to it, but in these tight quarters that I'm in, can't wear it while I'm driving for sure. But it's funny how that big of a brimmed hat makes a difference versus the hats that I'm normally wearing with like 4-inch brim. If you need a hat, if you need a hat, tell me your hat size, and I might have one to part with. Honey says, I bought a sheep fur coat for €50 and a pack of coffee before Christmas. Oh, nice. Sheep fur coat. Man, that would be nice. I like my down coat, but I hate how plastic and synthetic they are. But man, that's warm, that down coat. And it's so warm that I barely need it. And I usually wear my quilted wool coat now. But even that gets too warm right away in this weather we're having. Fur hat would be really good. Yeah, I need to get around to making stuff. I've got a bunch of deer hides that are just scraped. They're not tanned, and they got the hair on. And I really want to make a hat out of that. I don't know what style hat it would be, but just to keep my head warm, not necessarily have a brim. Desert Solitaire says, I want a wide brim. Most of mine are small brim for daily normal life. Oh, yeah, wide brim are cool, especially when on horseback. Well, tell me what size you wear, and I might, like I said, I might be able to come up with something. Marketplace, that's where I get my best hat deals. Yep, the other problem with going historical clothing all the time is footwear. Like this, these cost me like $35 brand new, because I got a sale on Amazon. They're fairly warm. They fit poorly. They're fairly warm and they're waterproof. Like, you just can't beat that. Like, these are $150 these days. They're uncomfortable, they're slippery, and they're not waterproof. It cost me $150, and this is a cheap pair. So that's the other big issue for going historical. Now, if I had a bunch of deer hides so I can make my own moccasins, that'd be fantastic for when the ground is dry or frozen. But when it's mucky out there, then it'd be a headache. So anyway, that's more of the thoughts of switching over to 100% historical. It would be really fun to do, but like I say, there's some obstacles. So if I do it, maybe I'll have to do it like my modern life, where I have some things that are old-fashioned, but then I allow modern things like Bluetooth speakers into my life. Maybe I'll have to do like a hybrid type thing. Also, I don't want to go into town dressed like this where everybody's staring. I used to like that attention when I was younger, but not anymore. Am I in one of the Plains states? Nope, I'm in eastern Washington, which looks like the Plains states, but it's quite different, which I am really looking forward to showing it off in my movie. So with AI the way that it is, there's an area out here where I really want to film because it's the most open, but there's a bunch of houses in the background. But with AI the way that it is, I need to post this on Reddit and find out, you can actually hide stuff really easy now. I've watched a couple of the tutorials, and it's super easy to, well, we all know that. We all see AI online. So it may be that I'll be able to get some filming locations that I thought I wouldn't be able to use. And then I can show off the terrain a whole lot better. Here's the mare I've been talking about. What's up, Nam Ken? What's up? I've been giving them apple pieces, so now they always want apples when I come around. I thought about using this for a bath, but I don't think I could keep the water hot enough long enough. And there's their water that never freezes. And we still got the runoff creek going. Let's see if I can make it without losing internet service. Yep, still flowing. I can't hear it like I could. For a long time, it was. I couldn't really hear it until I got over here. So it's dwindled a little bit, the runoff creek, but it's been flowing nonstop for almost a month now. I love it. This is my well here where the water comes out. That's my tank I was gonna use. Well, I can't really use tanks right now because it'll freeze. Because you never know when it's gonna get cold out at night and freeze. But that's got a spigot on it, so I was setting that up for washing hands easier instead of having to wash them out of the bucket. And then over there is where I want to put the shower set up. These barrels I got laying around all have spigots on them, so I have intended use, not just leaving them around looking like garbage. So anyway, that's what's going on out here. Beautiful view, but it's all cloudy today. Oh, somebody asked about this. Yeah, they put this up let's see, water that way toward the well. Elk gate. So out here we have elk fences keeping the elk from getting into the orchards, into people's farms. And so I'm out here past the elk gate, and that's why elk can come right around here on my property. Lincoln City. I guess we got a Lincoln here in Washington. I forgot about that. Portland, Oregon. Electricity. Yeah, there you go. I kind of thought that was cool, so I left it up. It's easy to get a bunch of junk laying around. Looks junky all the time. It's irritating. My brush pile. So the sagebrush is taking over. It doesn't grow really fast. That's like 10 or 20 years of growth. Anyway, I've been clearing it out. It'd be fun to throw a little gasoline on it and torch it. So like I said, so the temperatures aren't that bad. But when it's not freezing, then that moisture, when it freezes, everything's drier. But right now, I feel really cold. And it's because of the high humidity. And that's why, that's another reason. It's cloudy and it's high humidity, so it's just miserable weather. Versus if it was in the 20s, everything would be frozen and dry. And believe it or not, I would actually feel warmer. I was telling another reenactor who, hopefully he and I get together for a camp trip. We were going to do one in the winter. And I was telling him, let's wait until we actually get some cold weather because it's so much more miserable. That was back in December. It was really miserable then. We were getting a bunch of rain, so the ground was really wet. It was just miserable. But anyway, he and his wife went south for the winter. I think they already left. So we're not going to do a winter camp. But maybe I will. All right. See if we can get it warmed up in here. All right, let's go back to some comments and questions. Let's see. The seller said the original price of that coat and bag was $1,000. Wow. Oh, interesting. Huh. Well, you got me curious. Is it skin? You said it was sheep. So the wool on the inside, skin on the outside, I'm guessing. Desert Solidaire, I found Double H boots to be a good crossover boot. Look like a traditional boot, but have a nice usable outsole. Oh, interesting. Leather, I'm just going to wipe out. You're in Colorado. Yeah, a lot of our area here looks a lot like Colorado. Our mountains are way different. I think you guys are even steeper from what I hear, and your whole state is a higher elevation. Yakima's at like, oh, maybe Yakima's 1,400. 1,400, 11. I think Yakima's at 1,100 feet, and then the Tri-Cities is at 900 feet. But Colorado's like, I think your low elevation out there is like 3,000 feet. Cool. Yeah, I'll check it after this. Check my email. The TWR modeler. Howdy. I changed the color of my preacher boots from brown to black. Oh, interesting. With polish, I take it? Or did you dye them? Honey says, City Boy's always saying horses are for girls, which is not true. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of women that love their horses. But it's always cool to meet a guy that that has a real appreciation for horses. I bought my horses in 2015, if I remember right. It was cold. It was fall. I think it was fall. Fall 2015 is when I got my horses. But that was when I just starting to figure out how annoying a horse can be. I had a friend who knew how to ride and train horses, and he helped me buy them. He's the one that got on them and said, "Yeah, they're good horses," and they were good horses. I got them for $600 a piece, and but anyway, so one morning I said, "Let's go ride the horses." He was a roommate, so we drove out to where I was keeping them. Had them at a friend's property. We got on them to go riding, and we found out just how stubborn Bo was. Like, he rode the paint. No, the paint was his. He bought the paint first, and then he decided he didn't want it. And Bo, the buckskin, was mine. And Bo would not move. He got to the point where he just decided to stop. And so I said, "What's going on?" He said, "Well, let me get on him." So we swapped horses. He got on, was swatting him with a piece of sagebrush that he grabbed, a branch, and Bo just would not move. And that was the beginning of finding out just how annoying Bo could be. And I was too busy to work with him a lot. I went out a little bit at the beginning, but then after a while I just started pasturing them. Then I met a girl. She was hot, and I gave them to her. I said, "You can just have them. I'm not riding them. I'm done." And they said, "Well," her and her mom, her sister was a friend of mine, and they said, "Well, you can come down and you can come and ride." And I said, "Okay, all right." So I started riding with her, and she was a better rider than my friend was, and so she and I were riding all the time, and that's when I really started riding, um, and that was awesome. And then the next year, I just took off from there. I was riding all the time after that. I was doing mounted archery within a year of learning to ride. Wool on the inside, yeah, cool. That coat sounds great. I wanted black riding boots, but because of my thick calves, changed the color of an old pair, had to black. Yeah, I've talked to other people with calf problems. You're using a username, so maybe it was you. But yeah, I was talking to somebody else about calf problems. Man, I'm glad I don't have that issue with boots. That's a nightmare. My feet are fairly straightforward sized, so I'm really happy. Oh, cool. Billy Joel 4100 says, "When I watched your videos, got me into Civil War reenactment." That's awesome. Are you buying campaigner level clothing yet? Pasco is 400. Oh my goodness. Thanks for the correction there. My goodness, that's a low. I should start calling it Death Valley. 400 feet, guys. Now you see why when I drive around Idaho, Nevada, New Mexico, Arizona, Utah, and I see these cities, you see a whole town at 5,000 feet elevation. It just blows me away. One particular year, driving home from Arizona, went up to Flagstaff and then up through Utah on that trip. And I was with my dad on that trip. And that's where I was really starting to realize, wow, this whole state is higher than our pass. So we've got Snoqualmie Pass. That's the main highway from here to Seattle. And I've driven that 1,000 times at least. And the pass is like 3,200 feet. And so around here growing up, you think, okay, 3,200 feet, that's pretty high elevation. And then that lake that I've done videos at, that's like 6,000 feet. That's really high up there. That's a high mountain lake. Like, the roads don't even go up that far hardly. You got to park and then you take a horse up to the lake. And then, like I say, then you drive around in Nevada, driving at 5,000 feet. You hit a town, 5,000 feet. It's like, oh, this is as high as that lake, just about. Anyway, yeah, it just blew my mind. I love that kind of stuff. Leather dye. Oh, you dyed them. Okay. Well, yeah, it makes sense now that you've told me what your purpose was. I do have some Confederate artilleryman trousers. Cool. Gotten hair to go in the shoes. All look from the time for the Union side. You got shoes? I didn't really understand. Maybe there was a typo there. You're at 6,000 feet. Yeah, that's wild. Do I have any mods for my streams? What do you mean? Oh. Moderators. No, I don't have anything. Hopefully one day these live streams, I don't know, it's just keeping my channel alive. And they're fun. A lot of us enjoy this. But I need to make some more videos. That's what I'm getting at. TWR modeler, well, I do have a spaghetti western side to me. Yeah, as do I. My brother gave me a bunch of spaghetti western movies, and man, there's some good ones out there. Like the Grand Duel. The very end of the Grand Duel, the duel of the Grand Duel movie, is just magnificent. I think it was Ennio Morricone did the music on that one, and it's just phenomenal. Oh gosh, almost brings me to tears. It's just so beautiful. Makes me want to. I hope I can capture what I want to do on my movie. I really hope I can capture it. It's a lot of. There's a lot to learn for filming, and I haven't even dabbled in the music yet. But I keep wondering how am I going to add the music to this, because I'm a little bit of a musician, but by no means a trained musician. So to get the level of music that I need to make it good, I'm not sure yet how I'm going to pull that off. But right now I'm just focused on filming. Hopefully I can at least film the angles and to capture what I'm trying to capture and convey. Billy Dolly. You said you had the coat, the shoes, even the hat for the Union side. Oh, cool. Okay. Nice. Will I continue making videos? Yeah, that's my goal. Like I want to put together some practice videos that'll be better quality than what I've made in the past, but technically practice as I practice to get to the level for making my film in June, 6 months away, and so I'm hoping to start putting out some videos, even if they're more like, might have a little bit of a Red Dead Redemption feel, where it's just me, just capturing me going out doing stuff. Like I once did a coffee video, and so it'd be great if I can start using my horse. That's kind of, I don't want to just film myself walking. So like something like that, where I just go out, get on my horse and go and film myself making coffee and make it kind of a cinematic look with music. Not exactly a story, but more just capturing historical stuff like that. And I'll probably do a camp. For some reason, winter comes along and I want to camp. I have no desire to camp in the summer when it's nice out. Red Dead Revolver and gun? Is that something else? You mean Red Dead Redemption? I don't know much about Red Dead, so if that's some stuff that I don't know, then I'm lost. What kind of guitar do I have? Just a cheap guitar. It's an Austin brand. I bought it down near Austin, Texas, and it's an Austin brand. I don't think it's related to Austin, Texas, but that's what it's called. And it's a really good guitar, actually. really good tone, very playable. Before that, I always played Yamahas. I had good sounding Yamahas. If you haven't noticed, I like having cheap things at work. That's what, like, some guy, I was at a guitar store once in California. I bought a Yamaha, and some guy was there at the same time buying, I think it was a Taylor for $800. Because Taylors were really popular. I don't know if they are now. I mean, they're a good guitar. They're really popular. And that Yamaha that I was buying for $150, I liked the sound of it better than that Taylor that he was buying for $700 or $800. And it was a good guitar. I think it still is. I think I got it somewhere, but for some reason I switched to this Austin because the Austin you can plug in. It's got a microphone, and I was doing a lot more performing at the time, so I wanted a guitar that I could plug in. I should reach out to other collaborators. I've done a couple with Born 100 Years Too Late. He and I have done a live stream at least once, if not twice. One of them, it was just kind of happenstance. I jumped on. I started watching, and he added me. I don't remember if we did any others. And then also, Dyer, Mr. Dyer's. Shoot, feel bad. Sean's a friend of mine, and I can't remember the name of his channel, but he does 1920s reenacting and has a fantastic channel showing all the gear and demonstrating all kinds of stuff. And he and I have done 2 or 3 together where we talk history. Yeah. I don't know. I'm not big on growing my channel and doing all that stuff that's popular to make your channel grow. I just like having a authentic channel, genuine, just to share my life and to put out good videos when I actually do the historical camping. What I also need to do is a video of how I live in the wintertime. But we'll see if I get around to that. Mahogany. Well, let's see. I'm using it as a border wall for my dogs right now, because the dogs like to get. There's plenty of room for 3 dogs down there, but they like to situate themselves so that there's only room for 1 dog. And the other dog has to find somewhere else to sleep. So I put my guitar down there as a divider so that they can only sleep on one side or the other. Alright, let's see. Here, I'll show you my guitar. So there's Austin. I think the neck isn't the fretboard what's mahogany generally. I don't believe it's a plywood back. I don't think it is. Yeah, it's probably out of tune. Very out of tune. Alright, well, I'm not gonna. So anyway, that's it. Just a basic guitar with a good mic in it. Really good mic. So that was a steal. I got it for like $150, brand new. No, I'm not left-handed. I'm normal. Sammy George. I had a lady tell me that I looked like an old-time cowboy. Yeah, I bet. That reminds me of this old lady. She was, a classic-looking little old lady. She was short, kind of like my grandma. My grandma was like 5 foot tall, gray hair, classic little old lady. And I was walking into the grocery store, and this woman stopped me. she stops me and says, "You look like Billy the Kid," or something like that, or "You look like a cowboy." I forget now what she said, but it was just it was really cool. I really appreciated that. That was a few years ago. Arizona Ghost Riders and St. Andrew TV. Oh, St. Andrew TV, I don't know about. Arizona Ghost Riders, yeah, that's an awesome channel. That guy's cool. I always thought at one time when I went to Arizona, I thought maybe I would, back when my channel was active, I think John and I talked about him putting me on a video, but now I barely do anything with my channel besides this, so not really a whole lot to promote. Also, a lot of those reenactor people don't like me because I have historical standards. Left-handed? Nope, not left-handed. Studying history. Studying history should not lead to arguments. That's all I'll say about that. All right. Should lead to discussions. That's what I'm trying to say. So if somebody asks a question and somebody responds with an argument, this guy is the one that gets accused of being argumentative in the amateur history world. And that's why we can't have nice things. So if I present a claim, my expectation is that somebody would ask, how'd you come up with it? What about this? Did you consider this? And then I would be able to then have a response, yes, I took that into consideration and this is this. Or, no, that's a good point. But instead, if you make a claim and you ask somebody questions, that person is considered argumentative. And that's why we've got a bunch of sucky historical claim out there. Not all of it, because that's the thing about history. Anybody can read a book and have some accurate stuff. And there's some stuff out there in the reenactment world that is so bad that just doing anything to improve makes you far better. So that's the problem with reenacting. Like I posted a photo in this community that I'm part of for filmmaking, and I said all of this clothing is pretty much a historical reenactment of original clothing. But then I also clarified, but I could tell you on every item what's lacking on it. And that's just sums up reenacting. You could put tons and tons of effort into being correct, and you still won't be correct. That's just the reality of it. Some people don't want to admit that. Or some people hate it if they have to acknowledge that. Some people, I think, they just don't have a clue, and they don't have a clue that they are not correct. Whole gamut. But man, if you try to discuss it with somebody, they will put the group think together, and suddenly they act like a pack of animals of, you're not one of us. Why are you trying to fight us? Why are you trying to make me look stupid? All kinds of ego stuff that comes up. And that's the historical reenacting world. Either you get in there and you pat everybody on the back and tell them how great they look, or study on your own. So anyway, that's my little bit on if you get into. That's why I don't do a whole lot of videos with people. Probably that was my point there. The irony is, I don't care if you just go out and have fun, but when it comes to studying history, Tuco the Rat, he's a gunslinger. Yeah, yeah. So when I was young, I stumbled across Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. I mean, of course, I had heard it because like cartoons would be named some joke off of Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Like Good, the Bad, and the Ugly was like a household name, but I didn't know what it was growing up as a kid. And then finally, I was living in that ghost town of Oregon, Shaniko, Oregon, and I was house sitting for some people in this really cool old house. It was one of my favorite buildings in town. I was just thrilled that I got to house sit there. And I was working 40 miles away, sucky job. That's a whole other story. And so anyway, I slept on the hide bed with a TV, and every night I would watch a movie. I was going to sleep. And another friend of mine, the one who helped me get my revolver, who got my revolver for me, and I just gave him the money, he had a trailer full of VCR tapes. That's the era that this was. He said, you can go through those, watch whatever you want. So that was cool. He had boxes and boxes of VHS tapes. So I was in there, and I found Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. And I thought, oh, there's a Western. So I went back home, started watching it, and I was blown away. I was like, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen. I was like, how in the world have I never heard of this before? Now, this was after Tombstone, so I don't mean that it was better than Tombstone, but there just wasn't a lot of cool Westerns. At that time, I liked Dances with Wolves and Tombstone. And besides that, I couldn't really find Westerns that I thought were really cool. I also didn't watch a ton of movies. I wasn't good at finding movies back then. My brother was. And so I watched it. I fall asleep easy at night, so it took me like 2 weeks to finish the movie. Because then the next night I'd have to find what part I ended at. And I was really confused because it is hard to track when you're falling asleep all the time. But anyway, the thing about them spaghetti westerns is they're super cool, but they were a counter to the American movies. If you guys know the history of American westerns, it's pretty silly. And oh hey, Royce and Jennifer made it. Cool. That was a quick trip to town. The history of Western films, as I understand it, the very earliest, like 1917 or 1920 or whatever, were quite authentic. Like there's some pretty cool Westerns because they had real characters telling them what it was like, and there were people making the movies that were probably alive during the later frontier days. And so there's some really cool, really early silent films that show some pretty good history. And then it got cheesier and cheesier. It doesn't mean I don't like them. Like I love the old Gene Autry movies from the 30s, but they're wearing the full polyester suits, like the Lone Ranger. I love the Lone Ranger, but I mean, it was kind of cheesy the way they were making these westerns in the 30s. But it was mostly for kids too, and it was good stuff. Like they promoted really good culture of honor and telling the truth and being a good person, but stuff that's really fictitious about real cowboys. But they created the mythology of the cowboy. That's what I call it in the 30s. And oh crap, how bad is it? Do I need to? Is that any better? Maybe I need to hold it out here. Is that any better? We were having microphone problems at the beginning of the video, and I thought I solved it. Somebody let me know. And I'll continue with my Anyone? Viewer? Class? Uh-oh. Wonder if I lost my internet connection. Sounds good to me. Okay. All right, good. Thank you, Stanley. Hopefully my battery doesn't die. My Starlink uses some battery. Good. Okay, thanks, Justin. Yeah, so then that created the mythology of the cowboy, and then it kept getting progressively worse. And I don't want to offend anybody here, so I always got to give the caveat. Look, I think the Duke is a cool dude. I like John Wayne. His movies, on the other hand, are mostly intolerable to me. They're just so hokey. And then I don't know how deep I should get into all that, but basically what we had was we had these Hollywood weirdos defining what it means to be a man. Now think about this. It's how it was. So a lot of people watch westerns, and it strongly creates, this is what manliness is. And I've seen it by men who basically are reenacting what they see in the movies, you know, whether they're trying to be John Wayne or whatever. And these movies were made by a bunch of weirdos. Like, they weren't like men like us. Like, in the reenacting hobby, which leads to some of the trouble, is you get good old-fashioned tough guys, just good old macho American men who love the Old West, and they get into reenacting. And that's why the history is so bad, because studying history is not conducive to being a tough guy. But that's a whole nother discussion. But anyway, that's like, and on the positive, it's also a positive thing, because it's like, you know, us Americans, we carry the spirit of the Old West. And that's not who's making movies. All right? That's my point here. In the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, the guys making these movies and defining manliness were not men. Not the way that we think of men. And nowadays, of course, it's very obvious. Hollywood actors are a bunch of egotists, and the people making the movies, there's the corporate level. They don't care a lick about movies. And then we see how they force all this weird cultural crap into the movies. You know, it's gotten really blatant lately. But what I'm trying to say is that it's always been bad. And so anyway, that's what happened to the Westerns through the 40s, 50s. I mean, not so much the 40s because the war was going on. No, but pretty sure Gene Autry made a lot of movies in the 40s. And then that's why I have a real hard time with John Wayne movies. I didn't grow up with them, and that's significant. When you grow up with something, like if I had been watching them with my dad, I don't know how I would feel about them. What I'm saying would still be true, but I would probably have a different feeling toward them. But I never really watched any John Wayne movies until after I saw the Clint Eastwood spaghetti westerns. And by then I was like, well, Tombstone, spaghetti, and Sergio Leone to me was like, well, this is a western. And anyway, and so that's what. So then it was twofold. Then the spaghetti westerns started, and they were really gritty, where the American westerns were cheesy, good guys, all colorful and bright. And then the spaghetti westerns, the Italians, they made these gritty, rugged movies, and it was a big contrast and a welcome one. because the American audience, not knowing much about history and getting their history from movies, and we still see it today, as soon as something new comes along that's gritty, everybody and their brother is saying, oh yeah, that one's realistic. And this might ruffle some feathers here, but you see it all the time with the Tombstone versus the Kevin Costner Wyatt Earp debate. I see it constantly of people saying, well, Wyatt Earp was much more realistic, much more true to history. And I can't really say why that's not true. I'm not like, maybe my brother will do a video on it someday. Maybe I can do a video with my brother and he can really explain it. I mean, I could say some stuff, but I'd just be repeating what I've been told. But anyway, that's where the spaghetti westerns came along. But in America, they were doing that stuff too. In the, I think it was the 60s. My brother knows this history a whole lot better than I do. But in the 60s, there's a term for it that's slipping my mind. Everybody probably knows this term already. But where they started doing these stupid westerns that were anti-westerns and like the true history. And it was just a pendulum swing because they had gone so far off in one direction of fake cowboy history, you know, like the gunfights and all that. High Noon is a big one. High Noon, where the character, yeah. No, the cool thing about John Wayne, like I said, I like John Wayne. I just don't like the stupid movies that were made. But John Wayne was a man's man. That's what was so cool about him. And that's what a western needed, was a lead character that was a man's man. And then the 60s came along and they had to be really pretentious, saying, oh, but that's not the real history. And they did High Noon, which I watched it the first time and I thought, I was like gripped by that movie. Maybe it's because I'm not man enough. But anyway, the lead character, when you look at the big picture of what was going on, then you really see, oh, okay, yeah, this is stupid. Because they took this lead character idea of being macho and brave, and they put this lead character in who is a pansy because he was scared the whole movie. The whole movie is about how scared he is. And I don't remember how strong of a role his wife played, whether she was like the sensible one or not. I don't remember how feminist they went with it, is what I'm saying. Well, that's just one example. Little Big Man is another good Western. I like that movie, but it's another one of those where it's like tearing down the ideas. That was one where they made Custer out to be a moron. Like, Custer made one big mistake. That was the Little Bighorn. Other than that, he was a phenomenal general and Indian fighter. And I don't know enough about it, but my theory is he was just way too caught up in his confidence, and things had been working really well. And he got to the Little Bighorn and he said, yeah, this is going to be the biggest prize yet. And it was a really big mistake. So I'm not trying to say like he made the right decision, but people who say that Custer was an idiot are just maybe watching too many movies, or they just don't know what they're talking about. But anyway, that's what the Little Bighorn was about. Well, that's not what it was about, but it was one of those movies. I think it was called Reconstruction, the Reconstruction era, and they made Custer out to be an idiot. And there's a ton of people. They're getting older now. There's a ton of people who think that Custer was a moron, and they're basically getting their history from the movies. There's a fantastic group, Little Bighorn Facebook group, where people really discuss the ins and outs of Custer and the Little Bighorn fight. So I got to learn a lot reading comments there and posts. I saved one post there that's a really good summary of it by one of the leading experts on the fight. So anyway, so that's the bigger context of when the spaghetti westerns came along. Oh, and somebody asked, why do we call them spaghetti westerns? Because they were made in Italy, and we weren't scared of stereotypes back then. Uh, and I don't think the Italians care either. But yeah, some of the best movies ever made were made over there in Italy, and that's another discussion: is why Italy made such good movies, and then Hollywood squashed them. Anyway, I got a lot of beef with Hollywood. That's why I have no desire to try to go the Hollywood route. So anyway, the bigger context of how the spaghetti westerns came in. So yeah, in retrospect, as much as I love them, they're a bad history too, because they kind of push too much of this idea that everybody was out to kill each other and swindle each other, and that's why I'm making my western, and it's hard to get through those barriers because I'm going to portray a different attitude where people aren't um, suspicious of everybody. Because when I read the history books, I don't get the idea that people were suspicious. Like it was common that you ride up on somebody's camp and you just tell them, you holler out, "Hello, the camp," and you can expect to ride in and get fed. And like hospitality was the rule out there. And the same rule of if you came across a pioneer's house, like you could expect to be fed. That's just how it was. Now there were robbers and there were highwaymen, whatever you want to call them. A lot of thieves. That's what happened in Texas. The thieving got so bad down there, and the law came in. Before the law came in, the civilization moved into Texas. The thieving wasn't that bad because they had cowboy justice, or pioneer justice. They'd go out and hang a guy that was a thief. And then the law came in, civilization, and civilization isn't about protecting us. Civilization is about having power and order. And that's why it's illegal for me in many cases, most cases, it's illegal for me to defend myself unless I can if I have to defend myself with a weapon, I have to be able to prove that it was a life or death threat. So in other words, if somebody steals my car, but there's no life or death threat, I'm the one going to jail if I do something about it. Very rarely do they ever go after car theft here in town. Like my mom had a car stolen right out of her driveway, called the cops, and they said, "Well, we're not going to do anything." And that's just one example. I've heard many examples. And in fact, somebody posted on the local Facebook group that the cops were surrounding some guy who stole a car, and I commented, "Well, what was it? A family member or friend of a cop? Why the heck did they go after him?" And of course, a lot of people, yeah, that's exactly it, because that's just how it is. Anyway, I'm going too far into that. But cowboy justice kept thievery down. Then civilization moved in with their law and order, emphasis on order, and now it was illegal for these cowboys to, or ranchers, for the ranchers to protect themselves. They had to go through legal process, or else they would go to prison. Tons of stories of Texans going to jail, and that's why a lot of Texans moved out of state, because the thieving and the crime got so bad in the 70s that and they would get in trouble if they did anything, and so a lot of them left the state and moved up to Montana and Wyoming and Nebraska and all that. And how I was connecting that. But anyway, so yeah, there was a lot of theft and a lot of crime, but not to where it was like a spaghetti western where somebody shows up and you immediately pull your gun. And like I love it in the spaghetti westerns because they're adding the music and they're creating tension, and it's just artistry. Not all of them. There's some lame ones, but the good ones are just beautiful artwork. But as far as portraying the old west, it's not. It's just not history, and that's what I'm trying to do with my western is convey. It's an anti-western, anti-western because it's anti-Hollywood, anti-spaghetti western, but it's actually a true western in that I'm capturing the old west the way that I think is way more accurate. That's not to say that I know because studying history is really difficult, but it's going to be way more accurate to what I read. However, when I wrote it, the main character, uh, I wrote him so anti-Western that he's very not macho. So, but I think I followed the rules. There's storytelling gimmicks of making your lead character likable. Like if he's not liked, likable means that there's certain um, techniques you use to create a character so that people like him. I don't mean likable as in he's a nice guy. I mean likable as in like one of them is an expert. Like that's why to me Hollywood overdoes this. The expert tactic, you make a character an expert and that makes everybody like him. So then you can have him do something like actually one of the examples is from Cars. Remember the main character of Cars? At the very he's really cocky, really arrogant, and that's his character flaw. And how do you get the crowd to like this guy? Because he's not likable. He's arrogant. Nobody likes an arrogant prick unless he. And anyway, so then he gets in the race, and the antagonist is a real bad guy. Like if I remember right, trying to kill people or does, and the car's guy, the red car, he's not that bad. So he's not nearly as bad as the antagonist, and that makes him the good guy. And that's how they really good writing, really good lead character writing. And that's how you get the audience to relate to the main character who has very big flaw. And so that's just one example of how you of the tools you use to get the audience to like a character, dislike a character the way that you want them to. And so I do believe that my main character has enough likable traits, but as far as history goes, I've made him kind of a he's so anti-Western that he's not true to history. And I wrote this back in like 2018, back before I was when I was just getting into really learning about the correct history. So, but I think he's a good character, so I went ahead and I'm going with it. But the other characters are all pretty true to reality, I think, and all of them relatable, all of them with flaws. I'm really looking forward to making this movie. I think it's going to be good. All right, questions and comments on any of that? I like models too. Says, do you drink? If you do, do you ever think about making moonshine? I drink very little. I try not to drink much. Um, Super unhealthy, super addictive. But yeah, I do drink a little bit. I've thought about making moonshine. The main thing about distilling is I would do it with open flame. Like I don't want to like the. I think the safest way to do it is on an electric burner, but it's so dangerous because those fumes, if they get loose and get into the flame, you've created a bomb, and that's the main thing that keeps me from it. So I would make wine, and I started to get into making wine years ago. But the problem with wine is you need consistent temperatures, really. And my temperatures always fluctuate so high and low that I had a hard time with it. Because really, I want to make vinegar. Vinegar is great for cleaning and for cooking and for um, sterilizing. So as far as like prep,
apocalyptic preparation, vinegar would be super helpful to have. You can also drink it. It's healthy. And I say vinegar because it's basically the same process as wine. Wine is just a little bit more involved. So I'd like to make wine and vinegar. Also, all you need is fruit and water. Pretty much, you can do it from fruit and water. Adding some yeast helps. And I've got fruit around here. I've got currants and I've got elderberry. So that's what I would like to do as far as alcohol. But maybe when I get my cellar, I'll be able to do that. We'll see. Lee. Oh, cool. I don't think I've seen a Lee Acedo. The main character sounds interesting. To me, the best part of writing is creating the characters, their story, personality, and all that. Yeah, yeah, me too. I absolutely love it. And now what I'm really appreciating a lot as I'm learning about screenwriting is with once you establish the characters, then you create these situations. And the situations are so much more meaningful because now we all know the character. This really stood out to me in I watched Pulp Fiction again recently, and the very opening scene in the restaurant when Honey Bunny and what's his name, they decide to rob the restaurant, and we don't know that Jules and Vincent are sitting at the table there. I almost wish that the opening scene would have shown Jules and Vincent, like the camera moving past their booth and moving to focus on the two, Honey Bunny and the guy. I almost wish that so that we'd be like, oh, hey, it's Samuel Jackson and John Travolta. Because then the whole movie, this is one way of looking at Pulp Fiction to me. The whole movie is backstory of those two characters so that when these two weirdos that decide to rob the restaurant bring it to Jules, now because we've watched their backstory, now the audience, we're like, oh my goodness, we know these guys. How are they going to behave? Like when Vincent comes out of the bathroom, like we all know Vincent, and we assume he's going to just open fire. At least I kind of assumed that this last watch through. But Jules tells him, no, stop. And Vincent listens to him. And it's not because, and we know from their backstory, it's not because Jules is the badass of the two. They're both badasses, but it's because they're friends. To me, Vincent not shooting anybody was out of respect for Jules. Anyway, so without getting too deep into that, my point is, if we had seen them at the beginning, we wouldn't have known them, Jules and Vincent. And I feel like it would have added to the movie. I don't know. I mean, Pulp Fiction is almost perfect as far as movies go, so I'm not trying to say it would have been better. Just to make my point here is that seeing them without knowing their backstory would have created an emotion because we know Samuel Jackson and John Travolta. And then going through that backstory and then seeing them again, it'd be like, oh, now I know these guys. Anyway, so yeah, that's my big thing about characters and situations. Absolutely love that stuff. And I really want to make this movie because I got a ton more that I want to make. And hopefully this one goes well so that I can get an audience that will crowdfund and I can make 3 more episodes, 2 or 3 more episodes of these characters that I'm creating, and then hopefully go on and make a few other movies. We'll see. But anyway, yeah, that's my response to that. Would be cool to have different cowboy YouTubers have a cameo in that movie. Oh yeah, that would be fun. So this first movie that I wrote it to be low budget because the first idea that I had was just this cheesy cliche movie. It hit all the tropes. And what happened was I got a friend here in town who does some independent filmmaking, And I contacted him because at the time I didn't know anything about filmmaking. I said, hey, we should make a Western together. He said, yeah, I've been thinking about that. So we both came up with an idea, got back together. We had basically the exact same ideas. His idea was basically the exact same thing that I came up with. And I thought about that and I thought, wait a minute. Why did we come up with the same ideas? It's because it's all stupid tropes. And I realized that, and I acknowledged that in my mind was just the same thing that Hollywood has ever put out, basically. So I realized, okay, I need to do some more thinking here. And I thought, first off, that movie would be really expensive to produce and really difficult because buildings are difficult. We don't have anywhere to shoot old buildings here unless you want to do some that aren't truly historical. So I thought, okay, buildings are out. So I'll just put the whole thing out in the wilderness. And then I thought extras and cast members are hard to find. So I'll just do a minimum of characters. So I created 4 characters. I did have story that would have involved other actors, but I thought, well, I can make it about just these 4 out in the wilderness. And that way it's cheaper to produce. And so this first movie, I might have some reenactors coming up here to help me with it, but there's just no roles for anybody. But if this one goes well, because I'm self-funding it, I'm going to do some crowdfunding, but in case, even if I don't make any money at the crowdfunding, I can use my own money. And so I'm keeping it as cheap as I can. And then if it goes well, then I'll make a couple more episodes, and then I would love to bring in some faces that people know, or just reenactors that I'd like to have in it. So yeah, I agree with you. That would be cool, but that's the whole explanation as to why what's going on with this first one. So it's a low budget debut film, and then hopefully get to do more, because the next episode has at least one town. It's supposed to have 2, but to keep budget down, I can write the story where there's just one town that they go to. And that one's going to be difficult because it's supposed to be the Willamette, which is very green. And the only Western towns that I know of are out in the desert, the aesthetic that I like. But for this town, it has to be very green and colorful because it's basically Portland. Portland in the 1870s. But AI has advanced so far that that might not be a problem. I've seen an Old West town. I think it was the town in Sweden or England or France that somebody digitally placed in. I think they put it in Arizona, and it looked amazing. It was phenomenal. Took this town that I recognized from pictures and put it in this setting. And when I saw it, I was like, what? Which Old West town is this? I haven't heard of this yet. But it was, messing with my mind. And then I found out that they had just digitally moved it. So things are advanced so far that way that hopefully it won't be too big of a problem to make the Willamette Valley, to show flowers everywhere and green trees. We'll see. We'll see if I can get my filmmaking up to par. I was a little bit discouraged lately. I've been posting some photos from video that I've been taking for practice, and actually I got so discouraged. Because when you're learning, part of the learning process for me, because I'm naively optimistic, is what I often say, to a fault, gets me into all kinds of trouble. The naive optimism gets me going, because if I really understood how poor I am at something or how difficult it is, I would never even start. So that naive optimism is useful and getting me going. But then once you get going, then you find out there's breakthroughs that you have And these breakthroughs are realizing, oh my goodness, this is if you're honest. And I am honest to a fault as well. So all of this works together. So then you realize, oh my goodness, I am so bad. Or in other words, they say you don't know what you don't know. It's learning what you don't know. That's to put it simply. And so I've had a recent learning what you don't know moment. It was nicer. My naive optimism when I don't know what I don't know, I had more confidence. But I went through a moment of, oh, that's how much I don't know, which is good. It's good because in the artistic world, it's good to be humble, but it's difficult. And so anyway, that's what I went through. Yesterday, I actually felt, I like, occasionally I'll make popcorn and watch a good movie, and I consider watching movies part of the studying. Like, you watch the best movie makers, and while you're watching, ask, how did they do this? And yesterday I was like, I don't deserve to watch these movies. That was my actual attitude. Not that I'm depressed or anything. I'm doing great. But I just noticed I had this internal feeling of, I don't deserve to watch Sergio Leone. I'm not even at the level of watching his movies. And I think that's good. I think we need more people with a humble attitude like that. I wish we had more historians with a humble attitude like that. Of, wow, history is so vast. I don't even deserve to read a history book because I'm so bad at. I would love if people had that attitude. It far surpasses the attitude that we have. And then we could actually have some discussions. So anyway, that's where I'm at. And it's a good thing. I did watch a movie. It was Robert Zemeckis' 1980 movie called Used Cars. It was interesting. It wasn't great, but I want to get into some Kurosawa movies because I hear he's one of the best, and I've not watched any of his. Thank you, Stanley. Can't wait to see your movie. I'm really excited about it. I really think it's going to be good, but I always try to temper that with the fact that there's a chance that it'll be a flop. So there's so many bad movies being made, and I gotta mind. And I'm going to be talking about it. I'm going to be promoting it. So there's a lot on the line here. I have to make a good movie because there's going to be people looking forward to it. Dead Wolf Resistance, good morning. I guess if we go for an hour and 40 minutes, everybody can make it on. Oh yeah, somebody said they're not a fan of generative AI. I'm not either. Trust me, I don't want to use AI, but there's cases where I don't mind it because, like Photoshop. Like I went out here, I showed you guys earlier at the beginning of my video, there's a whole lot of locations out here that I would love to use. They were in my mind when I wrote this film, but the reality is there's houses in the background. But in Photoshop, we all know you can go in and mask, I forget what it's called, but you outline the house, and then I took a Photoshop class years ago, and then you copy the terrain around the house and you place it over that spot. And it looks like sagebrush covering the house. And so I'm not against that done to a degree. I'm not talking like Avatar level or Hobbit level or whatever movies, or the prequel, Star Wars prequels. Like, I hated that crap. So I'm not talking about that degree. I'm just talking about a little bit where it opens up the landscape that I would like to use. And now, so the difference between AI means that I might be able to do it because it's getting so simple. I hated Photoshop. I'm really bad at it. It was not something I wanted to do. I want to be able to do it, but I couldn't learn it. So if I can just draw a circle around a house and then click a button and it looks like a field, that's all I'm talking about. And not for the whole thing, just so I can use certain locations. So to that level, or like I said about the town, where I can't find a town in the trees that would look like the Willamette. But if I can take an Old West town that exists and do my filming there, and then place it amongst old growth trees so it looks like Portland for probably 5 or 10 minutes of the movie. And episode 2, that's episode 2, not 1. Then I don't mind it because I don't want to give up on the Willamette. Otherwise, I have to stop using the Willamette, and it's a critical part of the story. So I'm just defending myself. I'm with you. I don't like AI, but for those types of uses, personally, I'm okay with it. If I had a bigger budget, then I would do it different. But to make it work, and also the other thing, if we could get rid of AI completely and I had to give up those uses that I'm talking about, I would absolutely do it. If we could push a button and say either you get to use AI the way you just described it, or we get rid of AI altogether, absolutely. Get rid of AI altogether. I absolutely hate AI, but there are some little uses that I'm not against. So anyway, to clarify, I hope that is clear where I'm coming from, because I don't want anybody to think that I'm into CGI or AI movies. AI that is programmed to remove houses and modern stuff doesn't sound that bad. I imagine it's unnoticeable enough. Yeah, especially, yeah, and versus that, if somebody was like making a background, which I would have to do for the town, but I've explained that. I can't build a whole town in a forest. As far as I know, there are no Old West towns that are good, that are film towns, film level quality in the forest. But anyway, yeah. All right. I think I've explained myself well enough there. Don't want anybody thinking I'm an AI guy. But glad you brought that up. I'm glad that my viewers are like that. That's what I would expect from anybody that watches my channel, to be against AI. So that's why I will take tons of time to clarify. But it's like alcohol. You use a little bit and you start getting addicted, I'm sure. And so I've got to be really careful to not go full force on that, or to not go little by little getting more and more into AI. We'll see. We'll see if I even get to make a second film. I'm going to do crowdfunding with this first one, and if I bring in more, a friend of mine started a comic book, independent comic book through crowdfunding, and the money that he got over for producing his first one, he put into the second one. So that's what I'm planning to do if the crowdfunding goes well. All right. Whew. All right. Well, this has been a whole lot of fun. I guess I might as well cut it off. Speaking of going to town, I ran out of popcorn. Tried to make some last night, and I burned it because I get impatient. I love my little old antique popcorn maker, but you gotta just sit there and wait. It's like fishing with worms. And so I put it too close to the fire, burned it, and then I only had a little bit of popcorn left, so I tried again, and it worked out. And now I'm out of popcorn. So, but like I said earlier, that's not enough to get me to go to town. But I'll have to go to town one of these days. But man, it's nice spending a week at a time out here. Most of the time I ended up going to town every 3 or 4 days, but I've gotten better at getting stocked up properly so I can stay out here. And it's different. It's a different feeling being out here for 8 days and then going to town. Everything, it's kind of fun, but it's neat to see people and everything's moving fast. It's cool. It's a cool sensation. There's a lot to love about living this lifestyle. Oh, that's really cool. Listen to it while you're chopping firewood. That's awesome. What kind of, well, now you have to stop and reply. What kind of firewood are you cutting? I'm curious out there. Lee asks, have I read Shotgun for Hire by Glenn Shirley? Glenn Shirley, he's the guy that wrote, that's the same name as the guy that wrote that song for Johnny Cash on Folsom Prison. but I doubt it's the same one. Got it for Christmas. It's about Jim Miller. Already read it, quite good. I have not heard of that one. Uh, you say it's about Jim Miller, so I'm taking it that he was a real character, a true life character. I'm not reading any books hardly because I'm focused. I'm putting all my energy into this filmmaking, but we got a few up there. Right now, I'm still reading that 1,100 page book that was written. That's a compilation of stories written in the 1920s by guys who actually rode the trail out of Texas in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and even the 90s. So if I get into reading, that's what I go to right now. But I haven't touched it for a couple weeks. All right, guys. Well, thanks for joining, hanging in there, and being a part of this. I'm going to cut out and I'm going to do some practice filming and cut some firewood. So it's been a whole lot of fun. And I'll catch you next time or on Facebook or Instagram. So hope you enjoy your day and your weekend. And remember, life's a lot more fun over on the wild side.